something you can't fix.
If you can't fix what's broken, you'll go insane.
It's Jay and Adam. It's Preview.
It's Preview's Fix It with Adam and Jay.
Hey, Peaches! Welcome to Fix It, where friends don't let friends fix pop culture alone.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Jay, and you're our listener.
Hey there, listeners.
Ho there, listeners.
Papa, listeners.
Are you a wapa, not a wapsh? Really? I feel like that indicates a lighter whipping.
Oh, it very much is.
Yeah, that's like a whip. Whereas like psh is like my skin.
Oh, sure.
Ah, my deltoids. I don't know. That was the first body part that came to.
Mm-hmm.
My delts.
Yes.
You got them. Ow.
Where are your deltoids, Jay?
Well, as we all know,
Yes, as we
the
all
deltoids
are located
wherever they feel like being.
okay.
Wherever your heart's desired.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's where your deltoids
Any muscle
are.
can be the deltoid muscle if you
If you
believe
believe.
hard enough.
If you just sing this magical song, the deltoids will appear through the mist like Brigadoon. Yeah. Where are the deltoids? I don't even know. Your shoulders?
Right here, bud.
Well, that seems like a pretty reasonable place to get whoopsh. I don't know. Hey, everybody, welcome to Fix It. I'm Jay, that's Adam. You may know us from the YouTube reaction channel that belongs in a museum. Previewed. You may know us from there. You also may know us from being part-time ruins ninjas.
Sure, you know what? Tomb Raider's been taken, so
We just hang out in the ruins and just wait for people to show up.
Ruin
So
ninjas.
we can sneak out and with our blowguns and just. See, you do that different too. That's. There's gotta be a. Or if we learn from this movie, like everything has a sound, even magnetism just. If that's really the truth of the case, if magnetism makes a sound, why not just listen for the magnetism sound instead of throwing gunpowder in the air? Which doesn't make any sense and is not how magnetism works, but still it's kind of fun. It's fun. Don't look at me and say it like it isn't fun. Hey, welcome to our show, Fix It. Every week, Adam and I take a piece of pop culture that maybe missed the mark, maybe didn't quite get there, maybe just missed that grab, and then you fall to your death.
Mm-hmm.
And we fix it. And this week, Adam and I are going to be fixing 2014?
Dude, I don't remember.
I don't know. Brian will tell us later.
Yep, Brian will tell us
We're
later.
fixing the fourth installment in the Indiana Jones franchise, Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull.
The movie that should never have been made.
The movie that we were all kind of excited for the concept of them making another Indiana Jones movie.
Yep, for the concept.
Yes.
It was all good in our heads, and then we saw it on the screen.
Well, I have a firm theory about what they should be doing with Indiana Jones, and they refuse to listen to me.
I'm aware of what
Indiana Jones is American James Bond. Recast it and keep making movies. Just keep them in the same time period and just keep doing them.
Sure,
I don't.
Some people are really against that idea, Jay.
Which I think is short-sighted.
You are not wrong.
I think is short-sighted.
There's plenty. Well, I mean, seeing as how, and I learned this when we were doing research for our fixes, that Raiders of the Lost Ark takes place in 1936.
Yeah, it's a prequel.
It takes place like before World War II. I always
Yes.
thought these movies were during World War II. No. A lot of it's all both of all of them.
Wait, you're saying Raiders of the Lost Ark takes place before?
I'm sorry, Raiders. Yes.
Takes place
I said
before
I said yes. Raiders takes place in 36. My apologies. Raiders takes place in 36. Last Crusade takes place in 38. So well before America got into the war.
Huh.
So these movies are.
So you're saying there's more.
There's a lot more
Yeah.
time when the Nazis were searching for occult weapons.
Yeah.
That we could just have Indiana Jones go out on adventures
Uh-huh.
and face off against Nazis and saving cool mystical items from them.
Yeah, meeting up with Hellboy and.
I mean, if you want to meet up with Professor Braun.
So we're fixing Indiana Jones this week. But before we hop into Indiana Jones and the Legend of the Crystal Skull, is that what it's called? The Legend of the Crystal Skull?
Just the Crystal
Just
Skull.
the Crystal Skull?
Just the Crystal Skull. Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull.
We're going to be fixing those today. And we have one hard and fast rule with our fixes.
Yes, we do.
That we must include the MacGuffin or an outlying MacGuffin must be the Crystal Skull.
The title of the movie is still Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull.
Yes.
Hello, gentlemen. Producer Brian here. The movie is officially called Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It's from 2008, and the Raiders character you're talking about, I believe, is Renee Belloc. Anyway, back to you, gentlemen.
Other than that, everything else can change.
Yes. And but before we hop into that,
Yes.
why don't we do one of our new favorite segments? Roll for Convo. This is a part of the show where Adam and I take a 20-sided die, and it used to be an app on my phone until someone from the comments is like, "You're telling me these guys are making a D&D show and they don't have D20 or like an actual D20 lying around? Like that seems ridiculous."
We had plenty of D20s lying around.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seemed faster on my phone, but I got an actual D20 for you nerds. So suck on that. How about? Hop in the comments and say, "I'm so sorry, Jay. I'm so sorry." Yeah, gotcha. But our producer Brian has come up with 20 conversation topics. This is normally a time where Adam and I kind of catch up, but this seems more fun. So
sure. Nothing
and-
major happened in the past few weeks.
nothing.
Nope.
Nothing.
Everything's been
This
super
isn't
normal.
the first thing back.
This is not the first thing we've recorded post anything because everything's been the same.
Everything's been fine.
Nothing.
My life is completely normal.
There are no major life changes that have
Everything's
happened
been
between
fine.
when we taped Man of Steel and this Captain Marvel and this episode. Everything is completely the same from last you saw us in the Captain Marvel episode.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
I don't have a baby.
You don't have a baby, and neither do I.
He's so cute. He's so cute.
What are you talking about, Jay?
All right. I'm gonna roll this die.
Roll that 20 die. It's
That is a 19.
19. All right,
Yeah.
good question. Okay,
Yeah.
question.
That conversation check.
19 is rank the Indiana Jones movies by your favorite. Then try to guess where the Dial of Destiny will slide in.
Is that for real? The actual thing?
Mm-hmm.
No way. No way. Are they all Indiana Jones related this time around? Did Brian fluff them? No. I rolled the one Indiana Jones question
You did?
for real.
Yeah.
Okay. This is easy, I think.
Okay, great.
Um
Rank those movies.
For me, I think it goes 3-1-2.
3-1. Okay.
3-1-2-4.
Oh, well, Crystal Skull is just lucky to be on the list.
Yes. It technically has to be in contention.
Technically.
But it is, yeah. I think, and here's the thing.
Okay.
The interesting thing about ranking these movies
Sure.
is that if we are looking at iconic Indiana Jones movies,
Sure.
moments rather,
Yeah.
like moments from the movies,
Mm-hmm.
and what moments get referenced the most, and what moments get like brought up in conversation when people are talking about the Indiana Jones movies. The Temple of Doom
Mm-hmm.
has the most iconic moments, and from a moment perspective, I think maybe the best Indiana Jones movies. Like from eating monkey brains to like reaching your hand into the bug pit
Mm-hmm.
to like
Cover your heart, Indy. Cover your heart.
yeah, Kalima, like all of that stuff
Mhm.
it's iconic.
It is.
But at the end of the day,
The minecart chase?
the minecart chase, dude, everyone's been emulating that minecart chase in video games and in movies
Yeah,
ever since.
Ever
then.
since, yeah.
It's crazy fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but as a movie,
Yes.
it's just and it breaks down to my biggest thing, and I think this is where Crystal Skull fails as well.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana Jones works and hums and sings when we as an audience already fundamentally understand the importance of the object that they are going after.
That was going to be something I brought up when we were actually talking about the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because so like I think structurally Temple of Doom may be the best one,
Oh.
but where it breaks down is that they're just going after these stones.
Magic stones?
These magic stones that don't matter. They're important to this other tribe because of reasons.
And the kids are missing, so like that's a good reason. But like,
Sure,
but yeah, the magical MacGuffin we've never heard of before.
Yeah, but in the first movie, it's like it's the Ark of the Covenant. We all go, oh
Oh,
no,
yeah.
I know
Oh,
what that is.
no.
That's a big deal. And then when they open it and it murders everybody, everyone goes, oh no, I didn't know it could do that.
Yeah, melting people's faces. I don't think we've really
Yeah, dude.
seen that in Technicolor
Yeah.
on the big screen ever.
But also, and then you get to the Holy Grail. It's like we all know what the Holy Grail is. We all understand the importance of it. It also melts faces. I need a Judeo-Christian, Judeo-Christian,
yeah, a Judeo-Christian.
a Judeo-Christian
Myth, yeah.
artifact
Yes.
that melts faces.
Yes.
That's what I need in my indie movie.
Yes. I
And
mean,
also, I
that
would argue
helps.
in the Crystal Skull, one of the most insufficient parts of it is that the bad guy doesn't get sufficiently melted enough.
She's not even all that evil.
She should have melted, bro. That should have been so much knowledge that she melted. Their face went.
Instead of incinerated?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I want to, like.
You're saying her brain should have turned to molten goo, like liquid
Yes,
hot magma,
and
then
melted
burn,
out of all of her
burn through
orifices.
her body?
Yes.
Okay.
Like her brain turned to magma Drano and then just made its way out and all.
Jay, we didn't have time for that. There was a spaceship taking off.
Yeah, man.
To interdimensional space. Not outer space. No. It was the space between you and her.
But so I think the third one is the best because the third one has the best, like, it has some of the best jokes and like it feels the most lived in
Yes.
an indie world.
Well, because it's his father and son story.
It's great.
Yeah.
Like it had like the no ticket.
Yes.
Like him with the birds.
Yes.
Like it doesn't have the most like, like adventure, but it just feels breathed in.
Yeah.
Whereas the first one
Was fantastic, but like it was,
until Big Bang Theory all informed everyone that Indiana Jones really doesn't have any impact on that story.
I never watched that show, so I have
You
idea.
never heard this theory?
No.
Go back and look at Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Okay.
Indiana Jones doesn't influence what happens really at all.
Oh, really?
Other than that he's there to get the Ark at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the plan was like the Nazis were trying to get the Ark and take
Right.
it to this island and open it up. And they do all of those things. Indy doesn't stop them from doing any part of their plan.
I guess not.
Like they open it and they all kill themselves
Yeah.
accidentally. And then it just would have been sitting on this island.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Which one's your favorite's the third one too?
Yes.
Okay.
It's got the best things. The best mysteries.
I can't
the
believe
best
we
puzzles,
rolled this part of this conversation.
The best chase. That tank scene is fantastic.
Yeah.
The joke now, even as I am now older and get it even more so, because when I was a kid, because this came out in '89, I was 10.
If you are an art historian, I am Mickey Mouse.
The fact that Indy and his father both slept with Elisa or whatever her name is, like the reason why that was awkward and weird didn't even register in my brain because I didn't understand what they were talking about.
Yeah,
but as
you know
an
what?
adult, it's just like, oh wow, that's so awkward.
You know what
Wow!
other character would have who himself and his dad would have done that? James Bond.
It's true.
It's a James Bond move.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones is the American James Bond. Figure it out.
Yeah. But all the things worked. The puzzles at the end. The penitent man was passed. The penitent man was passed. Penitent man. Kneels! Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
It's
it's
so
just
good.
it's so
It's
good.
so good.
Him figuring stuff out. How do you spell Jehovah? No, it starts with an I. Oh God! Like this makes sense.
Yeah.
Everything's making sense here. Oh, they're in the library.
I have some really good puzzles for you.
Oh,
that I
do
think
you?
in my fix
Oh, good,
that I
that's-
think you're really gonna like.
Oh, great! Everything worked in the Last Crusade. Everything worked in Raiders too, and Temple of Doom. There's nothing wrong with Temple of Doom. It's a really good trilogy of movies.
Yeah.
But what pop culture has like what's an Indiana Jones movie? It's Last Crusade, it's Raiders, it's Temple of Doom, and technically Crystal Skull needs to be on the list because it's got the name in the movie, but it does not deserve to be on that list because it did all the same things and failed at all of them.
Yeah.
All of them. So, yeah, I mean that's okay. So where do you think Dial of Destiny will come in on this list of 5 movies?
I'm going to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt this way before Crystal Skull came out.
Okay.
I am very optimistic.
Sure.
I am very optimistic on. I think they took their lumps from Crystal Skull.
Yes.
And I think they figured it out.
I hope so.
And
well, they tried something different with Temple of Doom, and while it was still a good movie with a lot of iconic moments, there was like a sense of like, oh, but this wasn't.
This doesn't continue the story really.
Okay, but
But and
then they did Last Crusade, and I was like, well, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I think this all comes down to the trap that I think that Crystal Skull falls into, and it's what would solve it if they just recast it and kept making movies. Like I would. If there's an Indiana Jones movie in theaters like every 3 or 4 years,
yes,
we'd all be very happy.
Yes, I think we would.
We'd all be very happy.
I mean, the scripts would have to be good. The puzzle would have to be good.
Obviously. But even if you're cranking them out, it's like James Bond. It's like, I will go see a James Bond movie.
Sure.
It may not be the, I saw Quantum of Solace.
I was about to say, we'll run into a Quantum of Solace at some
point. It'll still have some kind of value to it.
Sure.
Even though, man, they keep those like ones after Quantum of Solace. They like keep like apparently like
stuff?
from a plot perspective that was a very important movie, and I'm like, guys, we do not care about what happened in Quantum of Solace. You've got to stop.
He ends up
referencing
in a
it.
desert.
You've
I don't
gotta
even
stop
understand
it.
what's going on. I mean, even Tomorrow Never Dies was like, this was not great, but like that was
Crystal Skull
cool.
gets wrapped up in Crystal Skull. It gets wrapped up in referencing old iconic moments rather than creating new iconic moments.
Yes.
And that, like when the hat flies out and they stall on him putting his hat on, I was like, no. I was like, Indy doesn't take dramatic pauses. Indy gets stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is not.
Nope.
There was too many things that I was like, oh, you're trying to reference this
Member?
other thing. Remember?
Yeah.
And it's, if you were making movies all over and over and over again, you'd just be like, we got to top this next moment.
Mm-hmm.
Crystal Skull was not trying to top any moments.
It was not.
It was just trying to, the only thing that I would say that gets there, and I'm keeping in my fixes, I think it's great. The ants are great.
Okay.
It's gross.
It's gross.
It's gross.
I don't like 'em.
But it's a unique and interesting thing.
Sure.
It was like,
well, not necessarily unique. I saw that same thing happen in an episode of, I think it was season 1 of MacGyver on ABC in 1987. MacGyver, Mondays at 8 o'clock, ABC.
I don't
check it out.
Yeah, you know how that was
There's
a cultural touchstone. That was MacGyver.
Dude, that episode
shot in Vancouver.
That episode scared the crap out of me because it was the same. Like it was the same.
Yeah,
ants.
those ants are scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was,
That guy got getting dragged.
That part was unnecessary,
dude.
The previous guy,
but you got to remember, this is Indiana Jones, man. They pulled that dude's heart out of his chest.
Sure,
you know what I'm saying.
But
I don't think it's. I think it was the only thing that felt truly Indiana Jones.
I didn't need to pull in. That was. And those guys weren't even that bad. They're just Russians. What did the Russians do that was that bad as compared to the Nazis?
Yeah.
Right? Like they just didn't. So you're saying that Dial of Destiny will be number 4 on that list?
I think Dial of Destiny could shoot to 3.
You think? Oh, you think it might be better than? It might be better than Raiders. No, than Temple of Doom.
I think it might be better than Temple of Doom.
Okay.
I would love it to be better than Temple of Doom.
Okay.
I would like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like I would like it to. But again, who's to say?
Who's to say?
If they do it right, no, there are fewer better movies than the Indiana Jones franchise.
You're right.
Like,
you're right.
As far as like big Hollywood 80s movies,
yes,
it almost, I would argue, and this is gonna piss you off a little bit when I say this.
Sure.
There are certain parts of me that like Indiana Jones more than Star Wars.
That makes complete sense. That doesn't piss me
Those
off.
movies are like, they are.
Yeah,
It's like Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Back to the Future.
Sure.
Those 3 trilogies. It's like
that's
they
the
are
80s.
That is movie making.
Sure.
That's big Hollywood blockbuster, baby. Like, it doesn't get better than that. Like,
You're
I don't
right.
think we'll ever harken back to a time in which movies were like that, in which, like, we were all just obsessed with not just the movies, but how they made them,
Yeah.
you know, and, like, the backlot and all that stuff. Like, it's so good. What are we talking about?
Where Dial of Destiny might come in on the list.
I don't know, man.
It could go 3 or 4. I agree with you. It could go 3 or 4, depending on how it goes. It could go 3 or 4 because it's Nazis again, and it's a MacGuffin I don't think either of us have ever heard of, but it's seems to be a little bit more easier to grasp onto
Down to earth
than
and if
the
they
Crystal Skull, and it also is mystical and not sci-fi, which was the biggest flaw of the movie.
Yeah. With Crystal Skull, I feel like, at least the way that they've set it up, you kind of have to go sci-fi, I feel like.
Not necessarily.
Well, we'll see.
Foreshadowing.
All right, well, I think this is... I think that was a good role
okay,
for
well,
Convo.
before we get to the... we really talk about the movie.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear what all the other questions were real quick? Because they were all Indiana Jones questions.
Oh, they all were Indiana Jones
Yeah.
questions. Oh, okay. I thought
number 1.
you could have just left me enjoy the mystery of...
Brian specifically asked me not to leave you in the mystery. Number 1, rank the Indiana Jones movies by your favorite, and then try to guess where the Dial of Destiny slides in. Number 2, rank the Indiana Jones movies by your favorite, and then try to guess where the Dial of Destiny will slide in.
Okay, we got that one.
Number 3, rank the Indiana Jones movies by your favorite, and then try to guess where the Dial of Destiny will slide in. Number 4.
So you're saying this was the Dial of Destiny? They were all the same?
Yeah.
That's... Sir? Brian? In what? We have a whole concept. We just... I leave for 3 weeks to bond with my child.
You're what?
And-
What are we talking about?
I don't know. He's very cute, and Kimberly's doing very well. She's such a good mom. I'm so proud of her. Anyways, why was it... Okay, I don't even...
We wanted to make sure we got that question. This is a good question.
Well, then... First of all, collusion. Second of all...
Here's the thing. When I opened Airtable to see all the questions, like, oh yeah, I forgot. A month ago, we actually talked about this. That's right. I totally forgot.
Bunch of buttholes. All right. Well, Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull.
Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull.
For those of you who may have not seen Indiana Jones 4, which I don't
blame you, or maybe you forgot about it on
I
purpose.
follow you. I get you. We'll do just a quick little plot drop of what happens in the movie.
And since it needs to be quick, Jay's gonna do it.
Yeah, since it needs to be quick, Jay's gonna do it. yeah. You get bogged down in the specifics.
That's my weakness as a storyteller. I feel like the specifics are really important for lots of things, and they're not always that important. And I don't know if you remember last episode, which was Captain Marvel, which we did like last week, right?
Yeah.
You said, hey, you were teasing me for how long I took. And it's like, hey, when you're editing this, go back and see how long it takes. Yeah, I talked for 4.5 minutes.
I know.
So Jay was right. I'm a little verbose sometimes.
Indiana Jones
Sorry
4.
about that.
Indiana Jones gets kidnapped by the Russians because they want him to find something specific in Area 51. So they drag him to Area 51. He helps them find a coffin of an alien creature. There's a big kerfuffle. Indiana Jones runs away. He finds himself in a Area 50 or in a nuclear testing facility.
Oh,
he
right.
gets into a fridge and survives an atomic blast. Is that actually important to the plot? Not really, but I think it's so stupid it needs to be in the plot drop. We find out that from the FBI and Indy that the Russians are specifically trying to do some Black Ops stuff and some extrasensory stuff and are trying to find aliens, yada, 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 and they need a crystal skull. Indy goes back to school. He meets up with this kid Mutt, and the FBI and the Russians are both chasing after Indy because they want his help finding the crystal skull. But Shia LaBeouf's character knows Ox, who is a researcher who has apparently found it but has gone missing, and so they have to go find Ox in Peru. They go to find Ox in Peru and find all of his writings and scribbles and all sorts of stuff and figure out where the crystal skull might be. They fight ninjas at the ruins.
Oh, that's right.
And eventually find the crystal skull and figure out that Ox has already found it but put it back.
Bum bum bum.
Bum, bum, bum. Once they find the crystal skull, they are attacked by Russians and kidnapped.
Immediately.
And Indy is linked to Ox through staring at the crystal skull, which that is never truly explained.
Nope.
What that means. And then there is a big kerfuffle trying to make it to the temple where the crystal skull was supposed to go. And they eventually get it there. And the treasure, they return the crystal skull to the body of one of the aliens in the ship. And once the skull is returned, the alien is able to reform itself. And the treasure was knowledge and teaches the Russian lady about everything and kills her. And they're interdimensional beings, and they leave Earth.
Yeah, it was El Dorado, and they're like, "Oh, it's the city of gold." Well, in some cultures, knowledge is considered as valuable as gold.
Yeah.
Boo.
And at some point, we figure out that Mutt is Indy's kid with what's her name
Miriam.
with Miriam, because Miriam had also been kidnapped because she knew Ox. So
Yeah.
that's it.
That's it. Yeah,
That's literally it.
that's it.
There's just like no twists or turns
No.
at all.
Well, the friend kind of betrays him at the beginning, then doesn't betray him, and then does betray him. It's dumb. It doesn't impact the plot. It just gets the bad guys there.
Yeah.
It's what's it called? Bad. It's bad. It's just bad.
It's just a bad
It's
movie.
just a bad movie. It's just a really bad movie. And here's why the fridge, him surviving a nuclear blast by going inside of a 1950s fridge,
leaded fridge,
is important to the plot. It means there are no stakes.
Yeah.
Because death is a silly thing that no one's going to die here.
No.
Because
Except for the guys who get brutally murdered by ants.
just the bad guys are going to die. There's no way our good guys can die because Indy
No.
survived in a nuclear blast, getting in a fridge, which
Because-
is backed up later.
Because Spielberg also gets bogged down in the details of the time period in which he's shooting, and he was like, "Oh, well, we're in Area 51, like we're probably near like one of the little," because he was like, "Oh, in the 50s they set up these little towns and like
Yeah.
set off explosives to see what would happen," and I was like, "Oh, that's fascinating and interesting," but like,
What does it have?
But what does it have
to
anything
do with
to do
Indiana Jones?
with what's
Anything
going on?
to do with Indiana Jones?
Nothing.
Nothing. Why?
Yeah.
Why are we in the Cold War era? Why? Indy
Because
doesn't make
because
any
Harrison
sense.
Ford has aged.
Sure, but at the same time,
They're making it accurate to his age.
Sure.
I think
get
it was really stupid he married Miriam at the end.
Yeah, well, they kind of figured it was going to be the last one. They figured that was going to be the last one until the movie bombed. And Brian, you can back me up on this. This is my guess. The main reason they made a fifth movie was because the fourth one was so bad they
Yes.
couldn't just leave it there.
I think that is accurate.
The best move would have been just to leave it at Last Crusade and be like, you know what, we're done, or recast.
Or recast.
But now we're trapped with Harrison
The
Ford.
internet would lose its mind if they recasted Indiana Jones, but they'd eventually the press would have to be like, James Bond gets recast all the time, and
The
you guys
Doctor
love
gets
it.
recast all the time.
You guys love it.
It always, yes.
Like, it's fine.
It will eventually. It works out. Everyone's like, "Rah, rah, 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 rah." Oh wait a second. Oh man, that's my doctor.
And then they make a good movie.
yeah,
And then they make
And
a good
here we
movie,
are.
and then everyone's like, yeah, this is awesome.
you see Daniel Craig like parkour through that whole thing and then kick that guy's.
Yeah,
that
dude.
was amazing. Oh,
Yeah.
this guy's brutal. Yeah, it's super hot too. You see him come out of the water.
Yeah.
He's his little trunks with all those rippling muscles. Like, yeah, man, this is a ripped ass Bond. Woo, woo, woo,
Yeah.
woo, woo, woo.
But before we get more into
Woo!
Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, we'll do the thing that we have forgotten to do numerous times while recording. we'll take it to our producer Brian to learn more about Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. So Brian, why don't you roll that beautiful bean fun fact footage?
Thank you, gentlemen. Producer Brian here. Today we are trying to fix 2008's Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Directed by Steven Spielberg and written by David Cope, it stars Harrison Ford, Karen Allen, Shia LaBeouf, Cate Blanchett, Ray Winstone, and John Hurt. Now, this movie cost around $185 million and made $790.7 million. Here's some random bean facts about Indiana Jones. Now, the boys have talked a lot about Bond, James Bond. Well, the Indiana Jones series only exists because Steven Spielberg wanted to direct a James Bond movie, and then George Lucas was like, here, how about this? Now, a lot of casting throughout the entire Indy series overlaps with James Bond movies, including Sean Connery, which is no accident. Now, getting into Skull. They wanted Mutt to be a nerd at first, but Lucas vetoed that because Indy had to have the same feelings about Mutt as his dad had about him. Lucas said, quote, he needs to be what Indiana Jones's father thought of him. The curse returns in the form of his own son. He's everything a father can't stand. Now, originally, Indy was going to have a daughter, like in the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, but Spielberg said it was too similar to The Lost World, so it was changed. Now, Connery turned down an offer to make a cameo in this movie. It was reported that he was enjoying retirement too much, but later stated the part was, quote, too small to get into the harness. Plus, the story was going in a new direction. If you care, this movie has a 77% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it won the Razzie for Worst Prequel, Remake, Ripoff, or Sequel. Now, Raiders of the Lost Ark is one of my favorite movies of all time, so that's number 1 for me, followed by Crusade, Doom, and then Skull. I predict that Destiny falls above Skull and below Crusade. All it has to do is be better than Skull. But I love the Indiana Jones series. As you can see here, I've got all my Funkos, but I also have a pretty cool replica of the Grail Diary with all of the maps. Very, very cool. Also, gentlemen, in The Last Crusade, her name is Elsa. Anyway, back to you, gentlemen.
Wow, you give a guy a couple weeks off and he starts slipping.
Yeah, man. Oof. Yeah. So, what can you do, though? It's one of those movies, What can you do?
What can you do? Except try again and make a whole other one. Hoping that everyone forgets the last one. Here's hoping.
Let's put Fleabag in it. Everyone loves Fleabag.
Who? What?
What's her name? From who's going to be in the Dial of Destiny?
I've never seen Fleabag. Is that a show?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, great.
Yeah.
No.
Fair enough.
Good podcasting.
Yeah. This movie, man. I think we just need to move into fixing it.
You think? Are there any other details about this movie you want to discuss? Because I feel like we covered the fact that everyone was untouchable, everyone was invincible. Because the fridge happens and they fall off 3 waterfalls when they should have died in the first one. There's no way anyone survives that fall, and they do it 3 times.
Yeah.
No, go screw yourself.
Well,
that's not how physics works.
I think it's that we don't fundamentally understand we're never explained really what the Crystal Skulls actually are doing there, and I think the one thing that Indiana Jones. And I think this is where Temple of Doom falls apart, too, is that there's no big reckoning scene when we actually get what we came for.
You mean like when the Ark opens?
Yeah, when they get the Ark and they open it, it's a whole thing, and it's like we deal with the ramifications of obtaining the thing.
Or when he picks the wrong Grail.
Yeah, he chose Paul. That whole thing of I'm the Crusader that defends these cups. I'm like, that's fascinating. I just keep drinking from the cup and I stay alive. It's like, that's great. Awesome. Also, and we're there for 20 minutes. It's a whole thing. Mm-hmm. And it's Crystal Skull. It's like, I would have preferred there to be a 20-minute scene there where we talk to this being and understand what actually is going on and what this actually is.
That's right.
The mystery isn't actually really explained to us in any way.
That's a very good point.
It would be honestly, I think I'd like this movie a lot more if I fully understood
because
what actually happened.
There are 13 skeletons, but then they merge into one, and then but how did the original skull get taken? Because it was locked
We
from
don't
the
know.
outside.
Man, if we just had a scene like with the Crusader in the Last Crusade, and he kind of explained what all this is.
Yes.
That's way more interesting to me,
Well, it didn't
and
even have
way
a
more
voice.
compelling.
Remember, because when they put the skull up, and he was like, "Oh," and then
They talk through
just
Ox.
yeah, it's like, "Oh, he wants to grant us a boon," or and he's like, "Oh," and then a misguided wish, a poorly worded wish is what is the downfall.
They could have even had a second there to talk about it.
Yeah,
Like it was the ending happens too fast.
How did you get all these treasures from across time and the planet into this temple spaceship?
How did you guys influence all cultures? Like what
are you even doing here? All of these.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It would really actually make the movie 1,000 times better.
Yeah, it would. It would make a lot more sense if they just
that would at least be interesting.
Because it was a creature. It was communicating with them.
Yes,
but they actively did not.
If they
give
had like
us...
a 15-minute scene where he's like, even if the alien's talking through Ox and it's like this whole thing,
yes,
yeah,
just something.
That'd be great.
Anything,
great.
Just some type. Yeah, what? Explain to me how this whole thing worked. What happened? How did we get to here? I still don't understand.
Yeah.
Oh, and they're aliens? Yeah, get out of here. Interdimensional aliens.
But
Not
I
space
think,
aliens.
But
Interdimensional.
the problem is that if they explain too
no.
much in that circumstance, they've set their sights so high with like alien beings and like the concept of like alien influences in ancient cultures, which is interesting.
Sure.
But you are also negating a lot of like what it was like. Well, if aliens are real, but also we're dealing with a world in which you've told me God is very real. So what does that mean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, what does that mean? Okay, so the indie universe has informed me that like not only is the Old Testament God real with the Ark of the Covenant, but also Jesus was very real.
Yes.
Christianity is true. Like his cup will make you live forever. Because it's Jesus's cup.
Yeah, in like a three bedroom apartment.
This universe,
in the middle of the desert, but
just like puts a hard line in the sand. Like Christianity, like Jesus was real.
The afterlife is a thing.
Heaven exists. Like you better go to church. Welcome to Indiana Jones. You better believe in Jesus. Like you better. And also aliens are real. What? Was Jesus an alien? What are you telling me here? What's
Ooh? Why not?
Oh man, that would burn the internet down. Everyone would lose their minds. Indiana Jones says Jesus was an interdimensional alien. Oh,
why
man.
not?
Ah man,
Why
It'd
not?
be like Alex Jones, like when also Jesus was an interdimensional alien. He's also making all the frogs gay. Oh man. So it's like I don't know what does it even mean?
What does it even mean? Oh, here's the other thing. And we were talking about this when we were doing the watch along on Discord. Of when they're in Area 51 and Indy's trying to escape and like all those boxes are getting destroyed as they're running through and crashed into stuff. You're telling me at no point during that chase
It's all I thought about after you said that.
you couldn't use any of the items in Area
It would have
51?
been so fun. It would have made
help?
that sequence so fun.
I mean, what if Indy just accidentally like found the... Oh, he did. No, they passed the freaking arc.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, wait a second."
Yeah.
And then like 20 people are gone. Fantastic. I bought myself a couple seconds away. I'm or any other little MacGuffin nod to some other thing. Like he finds a spear of destiny and like throws it into something, anything. You're in the playground of all the mystical objects that the U.S. government is hoarding away to make sure the Nazis don't get them or didn't get them, and now make sure the Russians don't get them. They're doing a poor job because apparently only 4 people were guarding Area 51, and they're very gullible and very dumb.
Yeah.
But why are you... did anyone think? No one thought. Everyone just thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool if they came up with aliens, right?
And-
No one will see that coming.
The minute we saw that crystal skull and it was an alien head,
Yeah.
we all knew it was aliens. They show it that it's aliens in the first 15 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, I could.
When she cuts open the thing and we see the alien hand, I was like, well, clearly.
I just couldn't believe it though. I was like, I just like you. This is no, this can't be.
It's just not. At the end of the day, aliens is just not what I'm looking for in an Indiana Jones movie.
No, it's mysticism, not sci-fi.
Yeah, I'm
It's
not
fantasy,
looking
not
for it.
sci-fi.
I don't care.
No.
If you can give me aliens, but really tie it into the archaeology of things, then I can get behind it. But they
Well,
didn't do that.
That's Stargate.
Yeah,
Stargate, SG-1, and then
Yeah, man.
Atlantis.
yeah.
Watch Stargate. It's a very good. Honestly, you should watch Stargate. It's very good. If you haven't watched Stargate, there's like 15 seasons worth of Stargate stuff you should watch. It's very good.
That's if I had to explain your personality
yes.
in one sentence to like a stranger,
Okay.
I think it would just be like, "Hey, Adam has a healthy respect for Stargate, kind of just across the board."
What's wrong with Stargate?
I'm not saying
SG-1?
there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying I think it just like, I feel like it explains.
It's a
you.
good show.
I know. I'm not arguing with any of those points.
Okay.
But I don't know. It's just niche enough.
It is.
It's niche enough to be
It's
like,
not Star Wars. It's not Star Trek. Those are the big two.
yeah,
And then after that, it's just a bunch of like, oh, I like Babylon 5.
Battlestar.
Battlestar. The original one. Not the 2000 series. Or I like the
The
2000
first,
series.
dude, the first 3 seasons of Battlestar are good.
Oh, yeah, until Along the Watchtower.
Yes. That completely falls apart. But
Oh, absolutely. But that's for later. That's for a later episode. Probably.
Yeah.
Maybe. Possibly.
I can't rewatch through all of Battlestar, but I would have to if we were to do that show.
Nah, Wikipedia.
Yeah. Anyways, I think we need to fix these things.
You know what? Funny thing? Battlestar Galactica's problem is the inverse of this movie.
Oh, they go religious.
They go mysticism instead of it's like this is a sci-fi show. Surprise! No, it's not at all.
Yeah.
It's mysticism.
Boo.
It was God.
Boo.
It was Cylon God. All right.
Cylon God.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
Nope. Hard
Nope.
pass. Nope.
Okay.
All right.
To the fixes.
To the fixes. I am going first. I
Jay's
am going first.
Boom,
Bum
boom.
bum. Cause Adam said his fix was really, really good.
Hell yeah.
So
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Were you trying to be patronizing when you were like, my fix is like really good and solid. You don't have to like go hard in the paint. I was like,
So this is. I was texting this and I was thinking in my head, how do I come across being like what I wanted to do, what I was trying to do is like, I'm not saying you have a child, but if you were to have a baby and busy with rearing a child, that like, you know what, like I know you're really busy, you have something important going on. This like, no, this is kind of complicated. How do we fix this? Oh, okay, but it took me like hours. So it's like, hey, maybe you don't have that much time. So like,
yeah,
I took the
appreciate
time to
that,
figure this
but-
stuff out. Like, so I was trying to communicate to you that if you found yourself pressed for time because you had other important matters to deal with, that you did not have to anguish over, oh my god, I really gotta, and you can just like come up with a good quality fix that not worry about all the details too much because I put in a lot. I did a decent amount of work. I think this is pretty good. I can anchor the show, so don't worry about like coming up with the most cleverest of things,
Yeah.
the most detailed of things. Not clever, detailed, because the
Yeah.
details are the stuff that takes forever.
yeah. Okay. Sure.
So that didn't come across immediately.
All right. So my fix for Indy 4, the Crystal Skull.
Yes.
All right. So, I actually really liked a lot of the professor stuff. I liked that, like all the college stuff.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
the motorcycle chase when they crashed the motorcycle in the middle of the library, and then that student is like, "Hey, Professor Jones," I was just like, "This is good." I was like, I like this.
Okay.
This is good." I also, across the board, kind of like Shia LaBeouf in this movie.
Really?
It's not his fault.
No, no. No, I'm not
But
saying
also,
that
if
is.
you were trying to create like a next generation Indiana Jones, at that time, Shia LaBeouf's not a bad pick.
I guess. I guess.
Who else would you pick?
Somebody else besides Shia LaBeouf.
Okay, whatever. That's not what we're talking about.
That's
okay.
not.
Indy.
But are you saying Mutt's in your film?
No.
Oh.
Indy is a professor. No. That's not what this is about.
Oh, God.
No, screw you.
Get out of here, butt.
Get out of here.
Bing, bing.
This is my fix. Yeah. So Indy's is we open on Indy like kind of trying to he is trying to, now that Brody is gone and he's lost his father.
Oh,
we'll
so
have
this
that moment
takes
kind of
place in the
earlier
same.
on.
In
Same
58.
yeah.
Okay.
I think he's aged like that.
Sure.
It's him being a little bit older could be interesting.
Okay.
So I want to stick to that. We kind of learned earlier on that, like, you know, he's lost Brody, he's lost his father. Like, he's trying to kind of like buckle down and just be a professor and kind of like put the old indie stuff behind him.
Okay.
And so we get a lot of Indy as a professor and teaching archaeology, and he is also his teacher's assistant is working on his grad student project. And through a lot of their conversations, eventually his TA finally approaches him after class and it's just like, hey, I am writing about the significance of the Ark of the Covenant. Basically, like, Indy had given him access to like a lot of his like field notes.
Sure.
He was like, I know you know. He's like, I know that it's real, and I know that you've seen it. And Indy's like, I don't know. He's like, the minute I brought it up, I saw something in your eye, so I followed it. I know it's out there, and I don't. And we got to figure out. And he's like, it's. And he like denies it.
Yeah.
Trust me, you don't want any part of that. Blah blah blah. He's like, oh, it's also like locked away. Like the government has it. And so, but we figure out, Indy like kind of like presses him. And we figure out like why this kid is interested, in the Ark of the Covenant. He's like, there's something. He spills the beans on it, but he's like, I'm interested in the way that it was constructed. There are certain properties to the construction of the Ark of the Covenant that could be very interesting. Like it's kind of a marvel of construction for the time, and so
Sure,
I'm interested in like the metalworking of it.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, that's because the kid's a little nerdy.
A little nerdy. He's worried
yeah.
about the metallurgical composition of the Ark of the Covenant.
And so
That's super nerdy.
Eventually, Indy is, and so we get through that whole little sequence, like first 10 minutes of the movie. Indy is woken up at gunpoint. Russians, they indicate to him that they have taken his TA hostage.
Oh no!
For all of his research, and they realize that they are going to need him to help them find the Ark of the Covenant.
Okay, makes sense.
And he's like, if you don't come, like we're gonna kill. Let's say his name's Teddy.
Sure, that's a
We're
good
gonna kill
50s
Teddy.
nerd name, Teddy.
And
Dork.
so then they've commissioned a flight. We get the Indiana Jones, the little map move, like they're going to Area 51. Great. And it seems very clear that they are very interested in the TA's research specifically.
They love metallurgy.
And so we find out upon finding the Indy helps them find the Ark.
Sure.
And then a fight ensues.
Does he throw gunpowder in the air and?
I'm not 100% sure, but he helps.
He figures
them
it
find
out.
He helps them figure it out. Maybe he remembers like the energy signature and. No. Actually, the Russians have brought a specific like metal spectrometer that they can like. It's like a big X-ray machine.
Sure.
Sorry, that's actually important to the plot. And so they're basically like X-raying all of the boxes.
Nice.
And we're seeing all this stuff, but
Do we get little nods to things while they're X-raying?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. That's how I included like seeing a bunch of random shit. It's just like, oh, like what's that? What's that? Oh, fascinating.
Look at all the cool things that Indy has found over the years that maybe we can go
Yeah.
back to in future days.
It should belong in a museum, but
It's too dangerous to be in a museum.
But eventually, Indy, in true Indy fashion,
Sure.
stages his escape,
Right.
and is like punching, a bunch of Russians and yada
Bunch
yada
of
yada.
Ruskies.
Bunch of
bunch of
Ruskies
Reds.
getting it right in the teethers.
Yeah.
Eventually, like as Indy is like, he is making his way out, a box falls over, and eventually, like he becomes in possession with the crystal skull.
Okay, what does your crystal skull look like?
It looks exactly the same.
Really?
Yeah, it looks like the crystal skull.
Okay.
And upon touching the crystal skull, like it feels like weird to the touch, but he's basically like he's using it to it's like kind of stunning people that he's pointing it out. It's like a Gorgon head kind of thing. So he's like trying to like make his way out, but he eventually like stumbles back into the X-ray, and I just stumbled back myself. Stumbles back into the X-ray machine, and it goes haywire, and there is an electrical charge, and Indy is gone.
Okay. Well, okay.
And the Russians like, what happened? What happened? And then Indiana Jones is teleported. He like wakes up with the crystal skull in a storage room that's still Area 51, but it's very clearly like something's different.
Okay.
And he makes his way out, and then makes his way out into an airplane hangar.
Okay.
He stumbles onto a modern day like jetliner with the presidential seal on the side, and he's like, that's basically stumbles like onto like Air Force One, basically. And he stumbles upon the then president handing over a book to a young Nick Cage, and says to a young Nick Cage, and says, you should check out what's on page 47. Now, Indiana Jones stumbles upon this. There's a whole kerfuffle about who he is, why he's there, why he's holding this big skull.
I was about to ask you what you said this modern day. Wait a second, which modern day? Indies are... Oh, boy.
And then they look, and he's like, well, the president's like, looks at the skull and is like, you really should look at page 47. And Nick Cage turns to page 47, and he sees there is copies of notes and dictations from Benjamin Franklin, and it shows a drawing of the crystal skull.
Uh-huh. You know this is why I texted you, right? This is the very scenario.
So
this is the reason why I texted Jay, hey, I think my fix is pretty good, so like,
go nuts.
Go nuts.
So
and Jay was like, "Oh no, I'm good, man. No, I got mine." I'm like, "Oh, okay, great. I can still bamboozle me, sir. You didn't lose those boozles, sir."
We find in Benjamin Franklin's notes.
Yes.
They're written underneath the drawing of the crystal skull from Benjamin Franklin. There is a small poem that reads, "Thunderous hymns where prayers double ring, set flight on kite and let key sing." And they were like, "Oh, well, this is Benjamin Franklin. This is the key in the kite experiment. This is the electricity experiment."
Right.
And they're like, "Well, we need to go to Philadelphia." And so the president was like, "Hop in Air Force One, you guys." And then, because we got Nick Cage, we got what's his name from The Hangover, and Blonde Girl. She was never been in anything else.
The kid. Yes.
3 of them and Indiana Jones.
And Blonde Girl. Oh, Blonde Girl.
I know. I'm sorry, Blonde Girl. I don't remember your name.
Brian, quick, what's Blonde Girl's name?
She hasn't really been in anything else other than these national, at least to my knowledge.
To your limited knowledge.
Gentlemen, we're talking about Diane Kruger, who played Abigail Chase in the National Treasure movies. She was also in Inglourious Bastards and Helen of Troy in Troy. Anyway, back to you, gentlemen.
And so the president gets them on Air Force One.
Right.
And we get an expo dump about what's going on. And the president basically is like, hey, like a lot of this stuff, like in this book, like there is a group called the Idol Group, and they are basically, they're the Black Ops. They're like basically like the Men in Black for archaeological stuff.
Oh,
and they're like a large.
It's like Warehouse 13.
Kind of, but they're not good. Like it's
Evil
the kind of
Warehouse
thing where
13. A show I never watched.
They're
really
a subset. They're a subset of like Idol, like the media group. Like what Nick Cage says, it's like they're like a subset of like Idol media. And so they get to, they've been basically like this media group has been like very quietly like kind of obtaining all of like the objects from a lot of archaeological finds.
Uh-oh.
And so they make their way to Philadelphia to kind of start like
investigating
everything. And we find we come in, the idol group is pretty much already there and knows what's going on. And so once they make the way to Ben Franklin's like house, like the historical, to like see if they could find any clues or anything. And they come face to face with their new nemesis from the idol group, Dr. Laura Croft.
I knew it.
And she's very casual. She tries to be like, look, just give us a crystal skull and like everything will be fine. Like, you know, you can just walk away from this. Like, this doesn't have to be a big deal.
Idol, like Idol Games?
No, like IDOL.
Oh, okay.
Idol.
What was the name of the company that EDS?
You'll see.
Okay. Oh,
you'll see. It's all tied in.
I knew it was like that's a tie.
Laura Croft, and she is accompanied by Dr. Grant, who the joke running is he's like, I am actually a paleontologist. I am not an archaeologist. I don't know why they keep bringing me on these things. And they keep talking in their ears to their man in the van, who is obviously Justice Winslow of the Portland Trail Blazers. And so all I have in my notes is kerfuffle ensues. So like they fight, and like, you know, Laura's like pulling out her guns, and like Nick Cage is like, whoa, you know, all that cool stuff.
When Indy's got his whip, yeah.
And eventually, like they defeat them and get away.
Sure.
And they realize, like, after all of their
kerfuffling,
they end up in front of a small historical library.
Sure.
And they read, they go through. They're like, well, I guess we can investigate here, and then they see the plaque on the wall, and it is the historical library of an actual librarian and author during the time of Benjamin Franklin.
Okay.
Benjamin Kite.
Okay.
Who was a bookseller and librarian. And so they're like, oh, this is the historical library of Benjamin Kite. And they go through a lot of his books, and they find like interesting things like in the margins of a lot of the books that are there. And then they realize they're like, the key in the kite, maybe it wasn't actually a kite, and maybe it wasn't actually a key. Maybe kite and key are people.
Yep.
And so they figure out that Benjamin Kite is the person. They find this like cipher, but then they're like, key. And then they were like, oh, well, Francis Scott Key wrote the Star Spangled Banner, and they're like, oh, but he wasn't alive during, he wrote this like after a lot of this had gone down. And they're like, yes, but his father was one of the people that worked, clerked for like the founding fathers as they were writing the independence. And so they figure out that Francis Scott Key was like, basically they passed, like his father passed down the information. And so the cipher is actually for the Star Spangled Banner. If you read like the notes, like the musical notes of the Star Spangled Banner and the cipher match up, but they can't figure out the first part of the riddle,
right?
Which is thunderous hymns where prayers double ring.
Right.
And then they realize that they're in Philadelphia. Right. And Philadelphia has one unique church that is actually normally like a Catholic church or churches during that time were for one particular saint. Okay. They were like, and what's his name? Remy? Can't remember. The guy from The Hangover. Whatever. And he's
Hangover
just like,
guy.
Hangover guy
and blonde lady.
Hangover guy and blonde lady are like, oh well, there is the basilica to Saint Paul and to Saint Patrick.
What? Oh my god!
So they make their way to that church, and they realize that the cipher of the music is what the settings are on the organ, and you set the organ specifically from the cipher and the key, and then you play the Star Spangled Banner. And it releases a secret door, and we find that's where the experiment took place. It's hidden. Oh. And so they realize that they're like, oh, we put the crystal skull here, but like, well, what has to happen? It's like, well, it needs to be struck by lightning. And so, but at that point, Laura Croft and Dr. Grant show up, and they basically Indiana Jones has to fight Laura Croft while he's trying to rig up the electricity thing in like a thunderstorm.
Sure.
While Nick Cage and Hangover and
Blonde Lady
are all doing figuring out all the specifications for the Crystal Skull. The thing gets hit by lightning. Crystal Skull lights up.
Sure.
And it transmits code.
Yes.
And they figure out that it is coordinates. It's coordinates to where the Crystal Skull needs to go.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so after defeating the Idol Group goons, they make their way. They realize that they have to go to Peru.
Oh. Okay.
So they go to Peru.
Sure.
We're keeping. I think we're keeping
whose
a lot
theme
of the
song do we listen to as the plane flies from Philadelphia to Peru?
Oh, it's just it is the Star Spangled Banner played by that guy, guitar,
Jimi Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix. But that's a good national treasure secret though, isn't it? That's pretty good.
Sure, yeah.
That's like a good national treasure. Kite and Key,
That's
but like
no, Jay. That was
people.
that. Jay,
That's
that's
very
a
good.
very good puzzle,
Right?
You did a very good
That's a
job.
good puzzle.
That's a very good puzzle.
A lot of jungle stuff, I think we're keeping the same. We're keeping the ants. We're keeping a lot. This is more. Now we're entering more Indiana Jones territory.
Sure.
He's like, I've been in the jungle. I know what's up. And so we get ourselves in the similar format.
Sure.
To where the Crystal Skull needs to go.
Right.
And so once we get to like that sequence and the alien, we get a much longer conversation like we talked about earlier with the alien about like what all of this means, and basically like we came to get humanity set up, but we realized that like by influencing like humanity, like we were just trying to make them a copy of themselves. So like we like really tried to, we had an exit strategy and we wanted to leave, but like obviously like it didn't work out. Humans did not want us to leave, and so they stole one of the skulls, and so they kind of trapped us here.
Okay.
So we've been trying to like kind of expedite ourselves from the situation. Like we realized that we were doing more harm than good. And like you guys have figured out like what you're gonna do. But like also, they're not just interdimensional beings. Like it's time and space.
Oh, so it's like TARDIS.
Like time travel. Like it like we were basically introducing things that were going to lead you guys to time travel before you guys were like could reasonably handle it. And so like we needed to expedite ourselves from the situation.
Sure.
But as they're having this conversation, the Idol group shows up.
They're back.
But also, their leader shows up as well. It's an older guy, much older, but like not as old as Indy at this point.
Okay.
But older guy, and he shows up and is like, I trying to basically beseech like the aliens and trying to use like some weird kind of power in order to basically compel them to stay. Okay. And it starts to work. But Indy basically like he kind of knocks the guy out for a second, and as he knocks the guy out for a second, all like the mind control drops on Laura Croft, Dr. Grant, and Justice Winslow, and the alien as well. And they're like, "Oh, what are we doing here?" And Indy was like, "You have to send me back. You have to send me back. Like that's the one thing I need. Like I know you don't want us to use time travel anymore, but like I got here, I need to go back to my own time period." So all of them work together and basically send this guy back. And this guy wakes up, like as he's waking up, he's like, "No, like you can't send him back." They send Indy back, and they send Indy back to Area 51, Night 58. And he realizes in the moment that he shouldn't be fighting the Russians. He punches out his TA, and is basically like he punches out his TA and like takes him out, and it comes to fruition. Like it basically like negates everything that happened after that, because like punching out the TA and eventually the U.S. military shows up to deal with the Russians. It turns out that he remembers what we find out like in why he needs to go back, we realize he recognizes the older man.
Yes.
And remembers reading his research and remembers that in order to build the Ark of the Covenant,
Yep.
in order to make something so ornate and so amazing at the time, when Moses came down from the mountain and the reason he smashed the commandments was because they were worshiping at a golden idol, the idol of a golden calf, and they were all like losing their minds over it. And so basically, what Teddy wanted to do was he didn't want to open the ark because he knew what was inside of it. He wanted to the gold on the exterior of the Ark of the Covenant was used from that golden calf, and so he wanted to melt down. We show a sequence of him melting down the exterior of the Ark of the Covenant and using that metal in order to build another idol to basically like mind control people.
Cool. Idol group.
And the idol group.
Set up and pay off, baby.
Yeah, and so he has like basically we learn that like all that exposition, and then he goes back and
we
punches
see
out
like
Teddy.
the original version of the timeline, and then it's like, oh, this is what would have happened.
And so
but then
none of that ends up coming to fruition, and so it all kind of wraps itself up. Indiana Jones 4. And Nick Cage and
Laura
Blonde
Croft.
Lady, Laura Croft.
I was
and
surprised Nathan
Justice
Drake didn't show up.
Winslow. What's up?
I'm surprised Nathan Drake didn't show up.
Can I be honest with you?
Sure.
I thought about it, but I don't know enough about I've never played one of those games, so I didn't know enough to really reference it.
True enough. That's
Yeah.
fair. That's fair.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my Indiana Jones.
All right.
All right. It's National Treasure 3.
It's National Treasure 3. Yeah.
Yeah, what's on page 47?
The Crystal Skull.
Kite and Key, I think that's pretty smart.
Jay, that was Enderboat's crazy, but that puzzle was very well done.
Thank you.
That was a very good
Thank
puzzle.
Because I think the jungle stuff doesn't need a rewrite. I think it's fine.
Sure.
Except for Shia LaBeouf swinging like a monkey from the trees. That was stupid.
And the people waiting in the walls.
Oh, yeah, that was dumb, too.
That was very dumb.
But you know, that's our job.
Yes,
You know,
it
that's
is.
what we do.
That's what
we
we
wait
do.
in the walls, just gonna get you. Gonna get you.
Did anybody show up today?
No.
Nah.
Nah, it's been
All right.
300 years.
All right, well, that's shift change. All right.
All right.
See you guys tomorrow. Good luck. Maybe someone will show up and get to shiv him. I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe they'll blow the blow dart right back in your mouth. Don't even say it. That's rude.
Ugh.
They would never. Yeah, they will. You better believe it. Anyways. All right, that's my fix. What's your fix?
Good job. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
my fix. Okay, so here's the thing. As Jay just denoted, that fixing something like this is very hard.
Yeah.
Because these historical adventure movies, the crux of it is the historical mystery where these puzzles, you get these poems, you got to figure them out. Like they need to be good.
Yeah.
The puzzles need to be good.
You need good puzzles.
And you need to be able to follow the solve as they go.
Let's be real. Making a good Indiana Jones movie is not unlike making a good Resident Evil game. Like the action needs to be good, but the puzzles also need to be good.
Yes. And the puzzles need to be like, somewhere along historically accurate or just like historically adjacent enough to be like, yeah, that's sure.
Sure.
I don't know enough to know if it's true or false, but it sounds true enough to me. Let's go.
Sure.
But in order to do that, it takes a lot of research.
Yeah.
We don't have time for this research.
We do not.
So part of this fix that I'm about to say is like, hey, just imagine in your head there was a lot of really cool research done, and there's a lot of like true things and semi close to true things. It's like, oh wow, this is so intricate and like pays respect to the culture we're about to go check out, and like we learn lots of cool stuff that's mostly true, and then some things were made up, and we'll tell you at the end, like, oh my god, this is amazing. Pretend I did all of those things, because part of this I'm just gonna skip over part of the story because this is where all that research comes in, and cool puzzles and stuff that we researched. But I came up with this yesterday, and so I didn't have time. Wee! So that's why this stuff's hard, and I've read a lot of books like Indiana Jones.
I've read a lot of books.
I know how to read, but there's a lot of really good. I don't even know what you would. There's a certain subgenre of fiction that's like historical adventure films, yeah, historical fiction, like but like Indiana Jones films of just like, oh, set in modern day. Ooh, there's a mystery from the past and a MacGuffin we gotta get, but we gotta follow the ancient trail while modern day bad guys are after us, and we gotta get the thing
national treasure.
Yeah, national treasure. That type of story. There's a lot of different book series that have done that, and it's like, oh, wow, these are really good. But like at the end, you're like, hey, here are all the sources that I had to research. Like, dude, you did a lot of reading to write this book. Yo, okay, that's a lot. Good job. That was a fun story. Wow, you did all that in 300 pages? That thing clipped. Woo!
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good stories out there. But I'll have to say that. Just imagine I did that for this. Okay. Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull.
All right.
It starts in Mexico City, 1940.
Yeah.
Indy is spying on a couple of guys. He's spying on a handoff between some Mexican dudes and a few tall, white blonde jerks. You can just kind of tell they're kind of jerkish.
Yeah.
So Indy over
Are
here.
the nihilists from?
Yes. We believe in nothing, Lebowski. So Indy overhears.
Give us the relic.
Indy overhears the conversation, which is in Spanish, which Indy clearly speaks, and he hears the phrase, "This is the mirror of legend, and it should help in the coming war." That's enough.
Whoa. Okay.
That's enough for Indy.
That's an.
So smoke bomb or some type of smoke-ish distraction whips the mirror out of the blonde jerk's hand, and now the chase is on through Mexico City. Indy's parkour and he's running stuff. Oh, it's crazy. The
punching nihilists and Mexicans.
Big tall white guys are chasing after him. Boom, boom, boom. And after a moment, we get to a quiet part of the chase where Indy's hid for a second.
Where everyone's having just a moment to themselves.
So Indy, whispers
everyone's
to
journaling and just being like, "This chase has been very good, interesting today."
Yeah. My heart rate is,
the mirror of legend, interesting.
The cardio I've been doing is paying off because I'm not as winded as I normally would be chasing down an American spy.
Yeah.
So Indy like, this belongs in a museum, and as he's looking at the mirror, he sees his reflection for a second, and then the reflection changes to an image of 100 feet above him, and then another 100 feet, and another, and then the city from an airplane's view. And then he's basically in orbit and sees the soft blue curve of the Earth. And he shakes it off and goes, "What the? Oh!" And he realizes that what he's holding in his hand is an Aztec fabled item, which is the mirror of Tencatipoca's mirror. Tencatipoca's mirror. I looked this up on YouTube. I just typed, or not on just Googled. I just looked up Mesoamerican mythical items. And
cool.
This is this thing.
Hell yeah, man! I love
it. It's a mirror that you can able to see the cosmos with. And he was like, "Whoa, okay, so maybe this doesn't belong in a museum. This is rough." So, but I gotta get out of here with this thing because the Nazis clearly can't have this.
No.
So Indy, for the rest of the chase here, is now using the mirror. He focuses a little bit and he can see where the bad guys are. Because he can see anything, so Indy is going to use the MacGuffin here to get out of the rest of the. And he's like surprising the bad guys through the rest of this chase.
Yeah.
In order to get out of Mexico City and get away. Hooray!
That's awesome. I like that.
Turns out we flash forward to now it's 1950. And turns out Indy was telling this story in front of his class.
Oh, okay, that's good.
But the thing is, the class doesn't believe any of the mythical stuff. But it's just like, oh, so. But the point that he was, because he knew no one was going to believe him, was why I kind of felt safe telling the real version of it, knowing the kids would not believe him. But the point of the whole lecture was that there are the Third Reich really was looking for mythical items all over the globe.
Yeah.
And that there are a lot of other myths and legends out there besides Judeo-Christian stuff that are very deep and lots of lore. So, guys, there is more than just, the Ark of the Covenant and the Spear of Destiny and the Holy Grail. There's a lot of other mythologies out there. There's a lot of other pantheons out there.
Hellboy.
Yeah, there's a lot of other cultures out there with their own deities and, myths and legends that you need to be paying attention to.
But if we learned anything from Indiana Jones, Jesus is
the afterlife is real, yeah. So,
guys, figure it out. Get to church.
And because the Nazis were always eyeing Central and South America.
Oh, okay.
And because they were. That's a real thing. So after class ends, Indy needs to go to catch a flight to Mexico City because he's going on behalf of the college because they have decided they're exhibiting a real crystal skull, and they're and Indy's going to to see if it is real, because all the other crystal skulls that have been found in the past are all been fake.
Okay.
And they even name dropped some of that in the actual movie.
Sure.
And he's gonna name drop some of them again. Like, well, no, these are all found. We found out these are all fake. Blah 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 blah. We found out they were found here, and then we figured out it was fake. At 20 years later. Blah 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 blah. So Indy's going down to examine the skull to see if it's actually real or not. But the museum's like, no, this is real. So Indy flies. We get the from New York City down to Mexico City. Indy gets to the museum and he gets escorted back behind the scenes to check out the skull, and we get a lore dumpage of Mesoamerican myths and legends and the crystal skull, and some because he's talking to another art historian or something in the museum.
It's probably a pretty lady because she's gonna be involved later. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might as well make it a pretty lady and have her along for the
No, it's just a
ride.
dude.
Oh, okay.
It's just a dude. So
Where's the pretty lady?
I'm getting there. So as Indy is examining the skull, he can't find any traces of hand tools, especially along making the teeth, because that's where they found out are the other ones. That was like, oh, these are fake because we could really tell because it's really hard carving teeth.
Yeah.
Oh, for those of you guys this is listening to it, I was talking to them. Sorry, that was more of a visual thing. Sorry about that, guys.
Look.
So as he's looking, he's like, "Wow, I can't really see anything in the teeth." It's usually where we find all the the tool marks, and then a familiar voice echoes from behind Indy. He's like, "Oh yeah, no, you're not going to find them because the skull is real." And Indy turns, and there's Marion,
Oh, okay.
because Marion is the one who found the skull.
Oh, cool.
And she's like, "Yeah, we checked, Indy. This skull is real." And so they catch up. She punches him because like, "I haven't heard from you in over a decade." Blah 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 blah. And then behind Marion, just as she's done, yelling at Indy, we hear a young girl coming from behind her. Is like, "Mom, what are you doing?" And out steps Marion's 13-year-old daughter. And so Indy and Marion introduces Indy to Diana, her daughter. And so they talk about the museum and the people and the skull and stuff like that. It's like, "Mom, can we go to the party? It's time to go to the party. Like, I got dressed up. Let's go to the party." So, and Indy's like, Indy's not a dumb person. He's very smart. He knows archaeology. He knows a lot of history. He also knows math.
Yeah.
So he's giving Marion he's staring, daggers at her like, you named, like, your daughter's name is Diana? So we're at the party. And there's a lot of...
Can you explain the significance of that name for me?
Indiana?
Oh, Okay. Wow, I feel really stupid.
No, it's okay. Oh, it's fine, because I felt really smart when I came up with it.
No, it's good.
Wait, you should name her... Because, like, you're not going
That's
to name your
good.
kid Mutt. That's dumb. Even though someone was like, when we were doing the watch lines, like, oh, because remember, like,
'Cause they're
like
both
the
named after
dog.
the dog.
I was like, oh, yeah. That's Mutt's a bad name. So they're at the party. They're mingling. We meet, the guy who's in charge of the museum, the head art historian that Indy was talking to, and also we meet a very rich white guy named Rick, and he's just kind of a dick.
Rick the Dick.
He like moved into the Central and South America and set up he's like a businessman down there, and he's like moved into the area early after the war because
He's a baron of some kind.
yeah, he saw the potential
industry.
in the area and just like moved in and started making businesses and stuff like that. And as they're mingling and stuff, and they're kind of like, they're whispering back and forth, like, "Wait, Diana," blah, 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 blah. They're meeting people, and so there's like it's a nice tense scene. It's a good character scene between Indy and Marion.
Absolutely.
More so than them meeting at the camp and then like all of a sudden staring into a crystal skull and then
for no reason.
For no reason. But while they're also there and while they're mingling, they also they meet this woman. Her name is Rachel, a nice young woman in her late 20s.
Rachel.
That's exactly why I picked the name, because it's fun to say Rachel. And Rachel is very aloof. She carries herself very well, like very kind of like how Diana did in Wonder Woman when she goes to that. Do you remember in the first Wonder Woman where they go to that party and she got the sword in her back and she's like sexy and elegant and they got the sword in her back, but like it's all like that's Rachel's vibe is kind of like that.
Okay.
And so they meet Rachel and it's like, oh, that's weird. She's really intense, but like she's very nice. But why is she here? This doesn't seem like she would be a person that would come to a museum exhibit. But sure, whatever. This is fine, and everything's fine until the lights go out and a bunch of thugs break into the museum and go after the crystal skull.
Oh, wow.
So now Indy and Marion are trying to hide Diana because Indy's like, "I'm pretty sure that's my daughter. Get her out of the way." And this guy Rick is now like in charge of the thugs, and Rick just takes the museum curator guy that they were talking to earlier in the previous scene and just chokes him out and like, "This is real. I'm gonna get in the crystal skull." Like, and just drops him. Indy and Marion are fighting all the guys. They're killing a few of them, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, so does Rachel. Like, she's kicking a lot of ass. Like, whoa, what? Also, she's, clearly younger than Indy and Marion, but like, what is, and Diana's like, she's so awesome. And so the bad guys get away with the skull, and then everyone's like kind of recovering what's going on. It's like, Rachel's like, Rick, his name is actually Heinrich. He's a Nazi general.
German.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Mossad. I'm a Nazi hunter.
Oh, shit.
Which is why the story takes place in 1950. Because Mossad started in 1949, and this movie, this story would take place later in 1950.
That's cool.
So, because this is a real thing. That's a real thing that happened, and a lot of Nazis went to Central and South America after the war because Nazis need to be the bad guys, not indie films. Yeah. Because they're better bad guys than Russians.
It's just more fun.
It's more fun. So, it's Nazis again, but this time post-war. So, they basically, like, Rachel kind of divulged what's going on. Indy and Marion are like, oh, well, we're the ones who know more about the Crystal Skull, so now our interests align. You want to find Heinrich so you can bring him to justice back in Israel, and we need to get the skull back because Nazis shouldn't have that.
Yeah.
So now it's...
But are we informed of, like, what the Crystal Skull is capable of? Okay.
We're going to get there. In Act 2, remember the stuff... Remember all the research stuff?
Yeah.
This is what Act 2 is going to be.
Okay.
All the research and the puzzling stuff and the traveling around Central and South America, this is Act 2. So I don't know the details of it, but here's story-wise, this is what happens. Diana really likes Rachel and is like, can you teach me how to do all these cool things? And Rachel's like, no, I'm a trained Mossad Nazi hunter. I'm not going to teach a 13-year-old girl all this stuff. But Diana she's not mutt. She's anti-mutt. She's like happy and glad to be there and like trying to learn things, and Marion's like, yeah, she's your daughter, and he's like, I knew it, why didn't you tell me? So there's strife between them, but like Diana's like totally cool with it. She's not like rebelling against Indy at all. It's like, you're my dad? I thought, wow, this is awesome. So she's all for it. They go on cool adventure. They figure out basically what Act 2 is. How Marion found the skull was she discovered where the Spanish conquistador explorer was buried, who found it originally. Okay. So she followed his trail to where he died. That's where the skull was. But now they got to figure out where the skull originated. So now they're following the Spanish conquistadors, like plots and hints and stuff like that. So Marion did half the work. Now they're doing the other half. Okay. Unlike, what was it, Ox? They were just... Ox was
had
just
it all done, but was just crazy.
Yeah, was remembering all the steps as they went away. No, but they're actually like figuring stuff out. So, and they're up against the Nazis, and they're also on the same track. So eventually, it all leads down to the same. At the end of Act 2, is the same like big chase. The bad guys have Diana. They have the skull. It's a boat chase down a river. Maybe it's the Amazon. I'm not sure, but it's a boat chase and a land race with jeeps and stuff like that. Yeah, and but it's a good chase.
Well, because they had those cool jeep boats, and I was like, they should have been using more.
They should have been using them, but they didn't
the
use
Amazon,
them.
There's a lot more water. Like you could just be like.
So we're doing a little bit of both, and everything switches sides. There's no vine swinging. There's no sword fights out of nowhere. Everyone does things that have been in character. Setups and payoffs are happening all over the place. But eventually, at the end, the sides switch, or they get the good guys get the skull again. The bad guys get Diana, and they do a switch to be like, I'm going to kill your daughter if you don't give us the skull. So they hand over the skull to get Diana back. Yeah. But they do know where they're going. At this point, they figured out the puzzle. They know where the city is. Basically, it's like, let's do El Dorado again, because that's a city, like you said earlier, like Judeo-Christian stuff. Like, everyone knows what the Holy Grail is. Everyone knows what the Ark of the Covenant is. Everyone pretty much knows El Dorado, the city of gold, for the most part. Yeah. That's in pop culture. So, like, you just kind of say, like, oh, it's El Dorado. That's the city we need to go to, because that's the thing.
That's a good MacGuffin.
That's the good city MacGuffin. Also, let me make, because this is important. So what the skull does, you asked the question. They figure out here in Act 2, or they unravel it more in Act 2.
But it's like a crystal human skull.
Yes. It's a crystal human skull. It's not alien. So we get a lore dump towards the end of Act 2, right before like the big chase, of what the skull is, a key item to the god of, and forgive me if I mispronounce this, but it's Xipe Totec, which is an Aztec god of death and rebirth. The Nazis want this skull because they want the power over death and rebirth, so they can bring back the Third Reich from the dead.
Whoa.
And this is and also just from a story perspective wise, and having everybody like deal with life and death and grief and stuff like that. Indy's father has died the previous year, so Indy's still kind of dealing with his father's death.
Yes.
So he's okay, but it's still like the loss of his father is still you know, it's decently top of mind. So like he knows what it's like to like lose people.
Yeah.
So all this is like leading into Act 3. Everyone's heading towards El Dorado. So everyone knows where it is, so we got to go there. The Nazis, of course, get there first, and they run into the natives, who are not hiding in walls. There's a native tribe there that, you know, are still living in the city as its protectors, but not hiding in walls. They're normal people. They're just, you know, native to that area, and they don't deal with the outside world a lot. And they get slaughtered by the Nazis, and it's really bad. Although a lot of Nazis do get taken out, because these guys are no joke.
Yeah.
But it's a big fight. The Nazis do eventually, though, like gain the city and get up to the temple. Our good guys show up. I'm sorry, this is important. On the way to the fight, like it's as graphic and as brutal as PG-13 can get.
Okay.
This is important.
Sure.
So the bad guys get to the temple. The good guys try to sneak in and kind of like kind of like the Last Crusade. They eventually like, they see what's going on. They see the bad guys are at the temple and they have no idea how to get in. Cool. Okay, here's our plan. So the natives. Oh, they also helped a couple of natives that survived the battle to be like, okay, so like we're not bad guys. We're here to help. And we're gonna kind of some medicine and stuff, or and just like triage. And like, oh, thanks, you helped us out. We're not gonna straight up kill you. You seem like you're good people. We're gonna try to help. It's some type of communication, and I think maybe like Marion can kind of help out there. But they eventually like try to spy on him, and the bad guys capture him. Oh no! So now it's like, great. So you're gonna get us into this temple, people who know all about all this stuff, or I'm gonna kill your daughter. Trust me, I'm just gonna kill your daughter. So, of course, as they always do, Marion and Indy help them get into the temple. They get in the temple. They figure out a puzzle. Get into the thing. Get to the altar. It's like, great. I'm gonna kill your daughter anyways, haha! Because it's all part of the ceremony. Oh no! Indy, Marion, and Rachel all try to rush the temple to get to Heinrich, but Indy and Rachel are stopped, and Marion makes it, but Heinrich wanted her to, because Heinrich grabs her by the throat, chokes her out on the idol, just like he did the guy earlier in the movie. So Marion's dead. The altar, everything lights up. The skull now lights up. The temple is now activated. And like this the Zaipei Totec like power is now flowing through everything. And so this guy Heinrich's like, I now have control over life and death. To think that a mere human could control the power of a death god is the height of hubris.
Yes.
Because there's no way this guy could do that. So all the people that just died outside about 90 minutes ago, like shredded each other, all start coming back to life. So now we kind of have a Zombo situation. Here's the thing. These people just died horribly, and now they're back, but their bodies are like not great. They're in a lot of pain. It sucks for them. So like they're driven mad because they should be dead.
Yes.
So they're like, it's not like zombies is thing, but it's like, no, I should be dead. I should not be in this body in constant pain and like missing limbs and holes and stuff like that. So they are shambling, they are crawling, whatever. They're like trying to stop the thing that's keeping them alive artificially. So everything is kind of going crazy. Indy and Rachel are fighting Nazis. Diane is trying, drags her mom off to the side. She's sobbing. Rachel eventually gets to Heinrich. They're fighting. It's pretty cool. Indy's fighting, of course, some big guy who's way bigger than him. Yeah. And, eventually they fight, and it's cool. And then eventually he knocks him into a bunch of zombies, and they rip him apart because they've been driven mad. What else are they going to do? Yeah. The guy's like... So everything is crazy. And then Heinrich grabs Diana, as everyone's kind of busy. Heinrich grabs Diana, and it's like, I'm in control. I'm about to kill her. And then behind him, out of nowhere, just when like, oh no, oh god, he's gonna kill her. All of a sudden,
Nick Cage.
Marion steps up and just cracks him in the head with like a pipe or a stalactite or something. Because it was important that Marion got choked out. Because there wasn't a ton of damage. Her airway just got cut off.
Yeah,
she's fine. So she pops up because she's not mad. Her body's not all that. She only died like a couple minutes ago, and like it was just.
Yes.
Yeah. So she's away. Mom! Everything's great. Rachel gets back to fighting, Indy also hugs both of them, and as everything is like going crazy, the temple is shaking. Like, this wasn't supposed to happen. The temple is shaking itself apart. All of a sudden, Rachel sees that like there's some big columns and stuff, everything's shaking, and Indy's like fighting off a Heinrich, and like, wait a second, no one can die right now. What the heck are we doing? Because like no one can die right now. It's very like a couple of Nazis like get stabbed and like back to the fight because I'm undead. I can't die. Rachel sees a couple of columns shaking. She goes like, gets an idea, runs over and gets between it and the wall, and like uses her legs, her big powerful, just raw, because she's like full of strength and anger. Pushes the thing over, right onto Heinrich, whose legs are now pinned under the column. And so, like, and everyone else is at this point, kind of like blocked off. The zombies are kind of everywhere, but like our heroes are kind of blocked off from everything, so they have a quiet moment while the skull, everything's shaking, everything's going crazy. And Rachel's like, so Heinrich, congratulations for having control over life and death. Yeah, it turns out there are some worse things than death, isn't there? Because he's like crushed and going, he's like, he can't, but he's still alive. And he's just feeling everything. And so Rachel makes him beg for death. Because Rachel is hardcore. She's a Nazi hunter. This guy was not great. And now he's like, you've been hoisted on your own, or crushed under your own petard. What would you like me to do? Oh, we can just leave you like this. Or do you want me to end it? Would you like me to end it? You're going to have to beg me. And like, even then he's like, whoa, I mean, I've killed my share of Nazis. But like, whoa, but also I get it. So like, go ahead. And so Rachel's like, okay. And eventually Heinrich does see the error of his ways. He gets what he wants. And it turns out that it's not something he actually wanted.
Yeah.
And so Rachel just, is a badass and shoots the skull. The skull shatters.
You gotta see the thing actually do the thing.
Yes. The skull shatters. All the energy dissipates. The temple's like, we gotta get out of here. Heinrich dies.
Yeah.
All the zombos kind of go, oh, thank God. Then everybody rushes out of the temple, out to the city. And everyone's like, okay, hey, really sorry about your city and all the people that died. But they're like, hey, but you helped us. That's okay. There's a little miscommunication with language and stuff like that. But for the most part, everything's okay. Rachel got her guy. Indy got a family. Everything seems to be okay.
Yeah.
They figured out the crystal skull thing. We've learned more about a different culture. And like, hey, everything's great. Fade to, a couple months later, Indy's back at the college. He's once again telling the story we just saw to the class, proving his point of like, hey, there are more cultures out there than just Judeo-Christian stuff. There's mythologies all over the thing that you should be paying attention to. They're rich. They're full of amazing stories and like rich cultures you should really know about. And they're like, oh wow, that was really cool. We don't believe a word you said about things, people coming back from the dead. But like, oh no, we get your point though. Yeah, we should learn about other things besides just all Europe and stuff like that. Cool, thanks, Professor Jones. But class ends. He's got to go because he's got a date with Marion. And Marion and Diana and he are going to go to a drive-in movie where they see a pulp action film from the 50s, much like the Indiana Jones films were based on.
Oh, yeah.
End of the movie.
That's great.
See? Nothing. There you go. Easy peasy.
That's really good, actually.
Yeah. You got it. What does a crystal skull do? It's got to do a thing.
It's got to do a thing.
It's got to tie into what the bad guys want,
Yeah.
and it can't just be knowledge. That's because that's too amorphous of a thing.
Yeah, it's not a thing.
I want knowledge so that I can ESP control the entire planet through mental manipulation. Like, because you'll be us. Okay, that's not how. No. I want a MacGuffin to control death so I can raise the Third Reich.
Yeah.
Cool. Zombie Nazis. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Sure. That's a lot easier to hold in my brain than Russian mind control. Yeah, man. Cool. Yeah, that's a great goal for the bad guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, crystal skull, and it's a human crystal skull. Well,
I think we did it.
We totally did it. Here's hoping the Dial of Destiny is good. Please be good. Doesn't need to be great. Just needs to be good. Please be good.
Needs to be good. It needs to be good.
Just be good.
And I know, Yeah, it needs to be good, and I need to like have full faith in Indiana Jones can actually do all the things he needs to do. Because I know Harrison Ford really likes playing Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
And Indiana Jones is his favorite, and that's great, and I will love that. But there were moments in even Crystal Skull where I was like, oof, if this was real life, he would have shattered both of his knees from that jump.
Yes.
He's just too old, and that sucks, but that's just the way things go.
You got to bend reality a little bit. You can't totally, completely suspend disbelief of like, oh yeah, they survived those waterfalls.
No, they did not. No, they did not. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I think we did it, bud.
We did do a good job
managed
to
to-
us, Jay. It's like we didn't miss a beat. Because we didn't. We've been doing this weekly.
Yep.
For, we didn't miss 3 or 4
Nothing.
weeks.
Nothing's changed.
Nothing has
I'm
changed.
gonna go back and but to my just my
Just your wife.
just my wife.
Just your wife.
Oh boy, he's so cute. He's my little cutie. He's my little Chisatari-san.
What?
It's Japanese for little bird.
Oh, I was about to say. I wasn't sure.
Or,
I didn't want to assume. What? Say it again, please.
Chisaitori-san.
Oh.
It's just Chisaitori, and then Chisaitori-san is like my little guy,
Aw.
or Kotori-chan,
What?
which is birdlet.
When did you
I
learn
lived
Japanese?
with Japanese. I lived with people speaking Japanese in my house for like 5 years, dude.
Did you really?
Yeah, when I lived with Shiri.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, her and her dad only speak Japanese to each other.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I had no idea. That's cool.
Yeah, I don't really speak a lot of it, but I know how to. Like,
Enough.
yeah,
That's neat. I didn't know that about you. Look
yeah,
at that.
I know, pretty cool.
You are pretty. Sometimes.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. As always, if you're checking this out on wherever you catch your podcasts, if you wouldn't mind leaving us a review, I really appreciate all the reviews on all the different platforms. It really makes a huge difference, and I actually read them, so you're warming my heart. Thank you so much for that. If you haven't left a review yet and you want to, maybe leave us 5 stars and tell us a funny thing that happened to you today.
Sure,
You
why
know?
not?
Why
I like
not?
that.
Hey, how would you invoke a Aztec blood god? Who's to say?
Who's to say?
Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, thanks as always. You know what to do. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, do the YouTube that you do so well, and tell your friends, idiots. And as we end every single one of these episodes, heartbreak feels good in a place like this.
It's the bullwhip you didn't see coming, Jay.
Damn it. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.